I remember the day Imani's mom and I found out we were pregnant. But excited at the same time, you know, just the joy of bringing a life into the world. Unfortunately, some couples don't have that privilege. In today's episode, we sit down with a couple who've been married for 11 years and have struggled with infertility.
An elder in the family suggested that he take a second wife.
A gentleman who's had the same struggle for 7 years.
One of the first things that specialists told us was you're not having enough sex.
And a gynecologist who specializes in infertility.
Nobody ever asked Mkwenyana, when is the child coming?
Stay tuned. Most of you know me as a stand-up comedian.
I saw a guy who had a sign that said, "I'm so angry, I made a sign." What?
Ntho sa tsebeng ke gore ke le timer, ya jola, and ke nagana wait for maybe one day le nna ke tla ba husband.
It's rough.
Hey, re tla bona. Join me as I find out what happens after the vows. There's a nursery rhyme that goes, Connie and Jafta sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in a baby carriage. Labona, from a young age, we've been programmed to believe that after marriage comes babies. So what happens when you can't fall pregnant? That's exactly what today's topic is about, infertility. So before we get into it, I'd like to invite my guests to watch a little something we've put together.
When it comes to infertility, most of the times you know that it affects him and his family, mostly saying, you married somebody who can't give you kids.
And that can definitely put a lot of strain, because if I, as a woman, feel like that's what people are constantly asking me about, I could easily take it out on the person that is with me.
It can be quite frustrating for a lot of couples. I think because Lesotho and I decided like we were not going to have kids for the longest time. And then now we're like softening up to the idea. So for us, it would be like, whether we have them or not, like we're in both headspaces.
I'd like to thank all of you for joining me here today. I truly believe that you can read up as much as you want on a particular topic, but there's nothing for me better than hearing from people who have lived through a certain experience and learning from that. I believe we learn from each other's experiences. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be out here today. I'd like to get straight into what we watched. And the topic is, how does infertility affect marriage, right? And I'd like to start off with the Zwanes. How did infertility affect your marriage?
Obviously, as a Zulu Makoti, you are expected to have children. You're supposed to have boys. So it always felt as if I'm not enough. The mother of his child has something that I can never give him. And that was a wound on its own that I had to deal with. Wherever I go, church, work, I had to put on a front in defense, but knowing that I'm hurting. It's something that hurts a lot. When you go out to celebrate baby showers, you know, the other ladies will bluntly say, you can't give advice because you haven't had a child as yet. And right at that moment, you either decide to sit down, keep quiet, or you walk away and leave the baby shower. So at some point in my life, I stopped going to social events. I stopped visiting my in-laws. I didn't focus on what he was going through, the pain that he was going through, and he was going through pain. I remember one time he told me that seeing pregnant women at the mall would just trigger emotions in him. And those are things that I never imagined that he went through. I thought I was the only one that was feeling the pain.
As a man, we have a duty, a burden.
Yeah.
As you've said, programmed from a young age. to extend the family's name. There is an expectation to have children. How do you explain it? You've got a child already, and then a few years down the line, now you can't, you are incapable. So it did negatively impact me.
So, you know, Dr. Dale, the one thing I'm picking up, and it's a common thing, and I feel like this is a huge societal misconception, that it's always the woman who's the problem. Why is it always the woman who's suspected of infertility?
It's a societal matter because the evidence of fertility of a couple is seen by a bump that is seen on the woman, whereas with the men, there's nothing to see, whether he is fertile or he's not fertile. And this is what makes the focus to be very much on the woman more than on the man. And this is a very unfortunate situation because that's why the woman will be ostracized. That is why the questions will be on the woman. And interesting enough, I mean, with our evidence as we look out there, 25 to 40% causes are on male, same evidence on women. So the statistics is more or less equal for both. But nobody ever asked Mkwenyana, when is the child coming?
Bradley, my brother?
We can certainly relate to it, my wife and I. Before the end of the first year, we decided we're going to stop contraceptives and we're going to start trying to conceive. So that continued for a whole year because medically you're not infertile until you've been trying for a year. And nothing happened, and we then decided to go and see a fertility specialist. And I thought I need to be supportive for my wife, and I was being the good husband, encouraging her, telling her it's going to be okay, don't worry. And when we got there, the specialist looked at me and gave me a cup and said that I would also need to produce a sample. The result said that the sperm was abnormally shaped, as well as the count of my sperm was quite low.
Yeah.
And I just broke down because at that moment I felt like my whole world had just come crumbling in. I was a hypocrite almost. I was wanting to be strong for my wife, and I'm the one with the problem.
Sure. And what are some of the things that you and your wife tried? You know, after you had come to the realization that, you know, it was your sperm count that was low, and that in fact the problem was with you. What are the different things that you and your wife sort of tried to conceive?
My wife was quite open to adoption and I wasn't. We immediately consulted with another fertility specialist, and we then started going through a series of tests.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that the specialist told us was, you're not having enough sex. And that was a bit of a shocker for us.
I was going to ask you, was that true from the specialist?
Well,
Yes.
Working a 9 to 5 and finding a 3 times in the week, we thought we were doing okay. And then we got the reality that no, we're not.
Welcome back to After the Vows. Today we're talking about infertility and how it affects marriages. So I've put together a video I'd like us to watch.
You gotta ask yourself, what are pineapples protecting themselves from? Like, you look at bananas, they have a smooth yellow bone exterior. Pineapples also yellow bone, but they got like a barbed wire around it. Hey, Joe. What's wrong? What's wrong? You seem distant.
Nothing.
You're lying.
Nothing. Okay, well, my mom has been questioning me about kids and when we're having grandkids and all of that. So it got me thinking, can I actually have kids? And What if I can't?
I'd leave you.
You'd leave me.
Yeah, I'm serious. I'll leave you.
And what about all of the love we have?
Love doesn't matter. When I married you, you knew I wanted to have a big family.
Okay.
Look at your face. I almost had you. No, I was this close. Okay. I almost had you, babe.
Don't annoy me.
Jagarumba. I
Don't
almost had
annoy
you.
me.
I'm not going anywhere.
So, just watching that reenactment, it brings me to something we touched on a bit earlier on, and we're talking about the pressures that we get. Not just societal pressures, but pressures from our family, from our immediate family. So I wanted to ask, watching that video, could you relate?
Yeah, I could relate. It is what women that are struggling with infertility go through on a regular basis, more than we can ever imagine.
It can really divide a couple. The families have got their own views. You will hear people suggesting a second wife. You will hear people suggesting a treatment by Sangoma somewhere else, ancestors, etc., etc.
My assumption past this one is that obviously these suggestions are being made to you.
Yes.
You then have to relay the message to Karabo. How do you feel when you hear these things? And I've been told that maybe we should look into having a third party into our marriage.
Unfortunately, the one incident where an elder in the family suggested that he take a second wife, I was actually there. And it was quite difficult to swallow at that moment. And then there was these external factors as well that were making noise around me.
They were adding to that.
They were adding to that. As religious people, there were even people that said to me, hey, you are cursed, because your husband gave his first seed to someone else. That for me was the turnaround moment. And I said, no more. We had decided that we are not going to try anymore. We stopped all fertility treatments. We stopped talking about children. We were having fun. We were going out. We sold shares that we bought for the baby one day. We said, Lomtwana is not coming. So why are we keeping the money there? So we cashed the money. We bought
Pastor Zwane, the way when she said it, the sounded like you guys sold your Bitcoin too early.
That was when the miracle happened.
I wish I can say it was a big hoo-ha, relief, but there was a lot of hesitation. If you've been burned before, you don't want to get overly excited just to be disappointed. So I was cautiously happy, cautiously relieved, but still not sure. When we heard the heartbeat, to say, no, Uzwanu kon, Uzwanu akijima, Uzwanu strong. That was a defining moment. We were teary and really grateful to God for that miracle.
What a beautiful story. Yeah. What a beautiful story. Brad, my brother.
We eventually did fall pregnant. That was when we decided we were going to go and try IVF as the last resort. And we went to the IVF clinic, and while the doctor's going through our clinical history, she asks my wife, what cycle day are you on? And when she told her, she said to her, I think you might be pregnant because you are technically late, but go do the test. And when she did the test came back positive. We were already around, I think, 39 or 40. And with us having tried everything in terms of the different methods to conceive, and in year 6, we had come there already pregnant naturally.
Nice. Nice. Guys, I'm loving these happy endings to these stories. You know, one of the things that I really wanted to ask you, being our professional today, is that there's this fine line between, you know, some traditional, and I don't even want to say traditional, there are these myths. I want us to debunk the myths that people try and advise us on versus what needs to happen.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people are told to do. For example, putting pillows under your bum
So that it doesn't, so the semen doesn't
flow out. You know, people are told put on a cap, don't close your eyes.
Yes.
There's stuff like
yes,
that.
They are myths. Like
You
they
know,
said, if you close your eyes, it's
yes.
a girl. If you open your eyes, it's a boy.
Or if you close your eyes, the sperm won't know where to go. I mean, once they leave you, there's no connection between you and the sperm.
The sperms also leave.
Exactly, you know. And a whole lot of stuff that people are told to drink. I would say that it's actually better to consult and check.
Yeah, topic A, infertility, ibuima, and we want to know from you, what information are you taking from this episode here today? What are some of the things you might have heard of that you never knew before? Engage with us on all our social media platforms on After the Vows. I want to hear from you guys, my guests today, and our professional, you know, just some of the solutions, just some advice on how you coped through this situation.
Absolutely. I think one of the key things is to have that open communication. Oftentimes, there may be a mixed diagnosis on both sides, and each one is walking their journey separately, and they're not talking to the other party about it. So communicating openly to each other is just going to make you stronger as a couple. And then try and forget about the conceiving part and focus on your marriage, because you get so obsessed in conceiving that you put your whole life on hold. So if society can be a little bit more open to stop stigmatizing infertility and to be more open in speaking about it. And then if you are a friend or a family member, don't ask those questions. When is your turn? When are you going to have kids? Because you just don't know what the person is going through.
Yes. I like that you said that, because I don't think a lot of people think about that. You know, some people just ask innocently. I don't think it's malicious, but I don't think they realize what they're doing, what extent, what damage their words could have on you, because you're going through this thing, so you're feeling it. Mamzwani, Babzwani, you know, Brad was talking about the fact that you should just, you know, focus on your marriage and let other things fall into place. You know, as he said that, something popped into my head about, you know, we, as human beings, we naturally want to make things happen on our time. Do you feel like a situation like this is all about God's timing?
Yeah. Like we said before, everything was planned and timed. And the downside, like you said, how about God's time? So in that equation, it's about us. We want 4 years to do this, 4 years to do that. But ultimately, it depends on what the man upstairs wants. So what carried us through this difficult time and season, we had each other. It wasn't about producing, it wasn't about getting trophies in the form of babies. We genuinely love each other. We spent a lot of time building the friendship before we got married. So I got married to my friend. So having children or not wasn't the anchor, wasn't the main emphasis of our relationship. Then the second thing that really carried us, it's our spirituality. So with all the stress, even if we couldn't talk to each other, some of the miscarriages, you know, happened when I was outside the country. I couldn't be there physically to support her. But if you've just got that anchor, that relationship with your Creator, it goes a long way. And then lastly, surround yourself. We did surround ourselves with people who wish us well, people who could give us encouragement. And then we thrived on that up until our miracle, came through.
Mamzwani, what were some of the things that got you through that difficult time?
So there came a point where we were at peace with us not having children. And when we received the peace, when we were in peace, when we stopped stressing about conceiving, it happened naturally. It will not be the case for every couple that is trying out there. And my advice would be go seek medical help. Go seek medical help. There's fertility clinics out there. You don't need a referral to go to a fertility clinic. You can make an appointment with a fertility specialist so that both men and women are checked so that they can have a successful pregnancy.
So, Dr. Deo, what are some of the things that couples can do to stay sane during this difficult time?
Love each other, And children come from God.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what we all do, be it the couples, be it the doctors. If it is not time, it is not time. If it is not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And actually appreciating that you're not 100% in control of what will happen can make it a little bit less stressful. I know that it's easier said than done, but just letting go a little bit, yielding to the powers that be, that actually the doctors and everybody else, including yourselves as a couple, you're not completely in control. Yeah, even us as doctors, we don't have babies in the bottle. When you come and consult us, nobody will ever guarantee you that you are going to fall pregnant. So I think go for the treatment knowing that in mind, And you are going there because you love each other. And my approach is always, when I start with a couple that's set in front of me as a loving couple, when we finish, whether there's a baby or not, you should still leave my rooms loving like the way you are.
Thank you so much, Mom. And thank you to my beautiful guests. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching After the Vows. As you know, this is a journey to learning about the intricacies and the complexities of marriage. And one of the things I don't think any couple thinks about when they're getting married, especially when they're young, is the things that concern infertility, After today's episode, I've learned so much. But I think most importantly, what I learned today is that as a society, we need to stop applying pressure to people who are married and asking them on a daily basis, when is the baby coming? We don't know what they're going through. We don't know if they're dealing with issues of infertility. So let's just love each other. Let's care about each other. And in marriage, let's focus on each other. Thank you for watching After the Vows. My name is Mpopo Sumudikwane. Thank you to my beautiful guests for joining me here today. Good night. See you next time.